What's up, folks? Man, look at that ugly mug right there. I'll tell you, it's been a minute. So, I've been on YouTube for a while. I've been bringing up back the case of Darlie Routier, 1996, Texas. Capital punishment. She was convicted, given a death penalty sentence for the murder of her son, Damon Routier and Devin Routier. As of late, there hasn't been much going on in the case, except for the fact that the Innocence Project and Vanessa Potkin have taken on Darlie's case to make attempts to show her as innocent. For a long time, I stood on the side of support for Darlie Routier and had some Facebook groups and did very well there. But after less than a year, I started to see that support wasn't. I couldn't support her because of the lies that were being told behind the scenes. Because I was very good at being able to support her. I always felt like it was her husband that did the crime. But I left support and began to research the case, and I found that she, in my opinion, is 100% guilty. Darlie has a lot of support, but there's more people that feel like she's guilty than innocent, and it always has been. And as of late, the case is just it has just there's been not much discussion. We're waiting to see some DNA testing that's being done and some more investigation that's being done. She's been there for all these years. And her sister has been speaking out in her innocence. And her sister, for the last couple months, she's a lovely person. She's a wonderful person. She's a nurse. She's a good mom. When Drake Routier was diagnosed with leukemia, she nursed him back to health. She's a nice person, but she doesn't present the case to the public as it should be. So as long as she's doing that, I'm going to be here to do what I've done, which is to show that Darlie is 100% guilty. So first, I want to just bring back the case of Darlie, get a little video going. I'm not going to much watch the comments. I want to get people familiar with the case again and bring it back up where my YouTube channel, my whole YouTube appearance was based on the Darlie Routier case. I know it back and forth, been to the scene, done radio shows, podcasts. I've got some really great interviews from insiders, family, all that. And the people who've been following me for the longest know that when I got into it with Rel, that channel went bye-bye. And it was fine with me. I still have my Facebook groups and all that, and we talked, and we haven't been much talking, except for the fact that her sister is speaking out publicly, and we're here to be sure that everything is told correctly to the public so they can make up their own minds. So what I want to do is just run a quick video of some of the old footage of the film to get us familiar with it, of the trial, to get us familiar with it, because this is where my channel's going for a while. As long as she's speaking out like that, this is where my focus is going to be, on this true crime case. You can still come in the chat and say hello, but it's going to be based on this true crime case, Darlie Routier. So first, let me get us familiar again with the case, with some rare old footage of the trial, some of the things that were said, stuff like that. And then I'll bring a couple videos up and show you where I'm at now with it. How about that?
Hey, this is the last study you're ever going to need to buy.
Bearskin tactical hoodie.
Bearskin hoodie. What makes it a tactical hoodie? This is the world's only 12-pocket.
Delaying her babies for
Okay.
Go we try. We're here to support all the innocent people who have been wrongly accused, and to support Darlie, who is 100% innocent.
I think it says that there was no intruder. Period.
And you know it.
Do I have to interview in front of this trailer trash over here?
Hey, don't even start.
He's running for a new position, probably. What is it, just like a county mayor?
Well, I can appreciate family members, supporting members of their family. I mean, if your family won't support you, who will? I just don't appreciate the way they've gone about it.
You know, it's sort of understandable when victims of families say things, in this kind of circumstance. But I would have thought that Mr. Kinney would have had the good sense to refrain from commenting.
She went over there and then she came back. And then she started down with soaking wet. They have the gown. It's got blood saturated all over it. Leaned on the sink, wet the towels. That's why there's
My bad. My bad. Hang on. Hi.
Everybody
Hey,
like
Sarah.
We're here to support all the innocent people who have been wrongly accused, and to support Darlie, who is 100% innocent.
Well, I think it says that there was no intruder. Period.
a lie, and you know it.
Do I have to interview in front of this trailer trash over here?
Hey, don't even start.
He's running for a new position, probably. What is it, just like a county mayor?
Well, I can appreciate family members, supporting members of their family. I mean, if your family won't support you, who will? I just don't appreciate the way they've gone about it.
You know, it's sort of understandable when victims of families say things, in this kind of circumstance. But I would have thought that Mr. Kinney would have had the good sense to refrain from commenting.
She went over there and then she came back. And then she started, gown was soaking wet. They have the gown. It's got blood saturated all over it. Leaned on the sink, wet the towels. That's why there's just...
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Devin. Happy birthday to you.
Love you, Devin and Damon.
So you're going to eat that. We like it. Everybody likes it.
With friends and family looking on, Darren Routier enjoys a bittersweet moment during son Drake's first birthday party. But while father and son enjoy the afternoon opening presents, all thoughts are hundreds of miles away, where Drake's mother, Darlie, sits in a Kerrville jail cell awaiting trial for allegedly killing the boy's two older brothers.
Darlie has every range of emotion you can think of, all the way from the bottom to the top.
Darren's Aunt Sandy Aiken says the entire family is standing behind Darlie, and they all say she is innocent. Kerrville, they maintain, will be the time of reckoning.
And that is that Darlie did not do this, and we can point the finger to the person that did.
But at this time, Dallas County prosecutors maintain that it was Darlie Routier who stabbed to death her 5- and 6-year-old sons, Damon and Devin, inside the family's Rowlett home on June 6th. Sister-in-law Dana Routier says the family plans to fight those charges to the bitter end.
We're just a strong family, and we love Darlie, and we love the boys, and we always will. And if, you know, her support system will never break. We're all completely 100% behind her, and this whole thing is just ridiculous.
The family is upset that prosecutors plan to use against Routier a videotape shot by Texas News 5. It shows Routier joyfully celebrating her son's birthdays only a few days after their deaths. Aiken says it was simply Darlie's way of helping the neighborhood kids get over the tragedy.
Darlie and Darren felt like this is something that, for the emotional support for the children in the neighborhood that love these kids, that were in and out of their house constantly, a party had to be held so these children could adjust.
Those involved on both sides of the Darlie Routier case say it's like an onion, turning up layer after layer of questions. The latest question stems from blood evidence on the nightshirt Routier wore when her sons were killed and she was wounded. Sources say on the back of that shirt are several impressions of a bloody knife, almost like a silhouette. One appears to show the murder weapon was swiped across the shirt. Tests show the blood is Darlie's. The question prosecutors will most likely ask is, why would the killer stab Routier, then wipe the knife off on her shirt? The shirt is part of the evidence that's been loaded and will be sent to Kerrville this week. Among witnesses expected to head down are family friends who will testify about Routier's alleged depressions just before the stabbing deaths of Damon and Devin. Prosecutors are also expected to show jurors the Texas News 5 interview with Darlie and Darren Routier at their son's gravesite, celebrating what would have been Devin's 7th birthday. The Routiers were criticized by many for the gravesite party. The family says what no one saw was the solemn prayer service before. Texas News 5 has learned that Rowlett police had the family under taped surveillance for hours that day, and part of that tape will show the prayer service with only the family present. Routier's family says she's doing well at this point and that she is pushing her attorneys to allow her to take the stand in her own defense. No word yet on whether they will allow her to do that. Joe Munoz, Texas News 5. In a tiny town like Kerrville, when someone thinks you haven't done what's right, they'll let you know. So, when more than half of the requested potential jurors in the capital murder trial of Darlie Routier did not show up in court, folks around here let loose.
They're just not showing any responsibility. I guess we're getting to the point where we don't really care anymore.
But some people did care. 165 Kerr County residents will begin the long process of voir dire, where each person is individually interviewed by both the defense and the prosecution. When potential jurors enter this courthouse next Monday, they'll be asked questions ranging from whether or not they have a criminal past to what their thoughts are on the death penalty. They will also be asked what they believe burden of proof is. Attorneys will want to know what potential jurors think proof beyond a reasonable doubt is, and they'll also be asked about their life experiences. 7 people a day will be interviewed to create the final jury and the alternates.
We'll get a fair jury in Kerrville. Kerrville is a very good community, and we'll have good, intelligent jurors, and we'll get a good fair trial here.
It's going to be a difficult case, certainly because of the circumstances of the situation, but feel very confident, and I think as we get along further in the process with picking the jury, I think that we'll see that we have a very good jury panel down here in Kerrville, and I'm very confident here.
If some juror candidates consider not showing up next week, another Kerr County native has some words for them.
Totally un-American. That's not what we're based on in America.
In Kerrville, Joe Munoz, Texas News 5.
Happy birthday to you.
For some, this may seem a strange thing to do in an odd place and time.
Happy birthday, dear Devin.
Singing happy birthday in a cemetery to a son who was brutally stabbed to death just over a week ago.
Love you, Devin and Damon.
But Darlie and Darren Routier say this is appropriate for them and their family. Helium balloons instead of headstones to remember Devin, who would have turned 7 today.
And he would take the liquid paper and he was painting on his cards. Just change them up from what they were before.
He and his 5-year-old brother Damon were stabbed to death, their mother wounded by someone she described as a white man wearing dark clothes. She was downstairs with the boys, Darren in an upstairs bedroom with infant son Drake. They were unharmed. The young mother says she feels horrible she did not wake up immediately when her children were attacked first.
All I was thinking about was trying to save the babies. I mean, Darren and I tried to save the babies, but it was too late. The babies were gone. But we tried, and we have to live with that forever.
Rowlett police are mum about the motive, but do say it was not burglary because nothing was taken. They also say this was not random.
Now we know that this is a sick individual that took absolutely nothing from our house, but took the two most important things that were important to us.
The family says they not only battle grief now, they battle rumors that they were somehow involved in this violent crime.
Gossip is the biggest evil in the world, and unfortunately, there's nothing you can do to stop it. And we're not going to make an issue out of this.
As for who
you can do to stop it, and
that they were somehow involved in this violent crime.
Gossip is the biggest evil in the world, and unfortunately.
Let's see what happened. Somehow that froze. Okay, well, let's just do this. Let's get into that. Actually, what Darren said was he doesn't remember whether he put his jeans on or not, Sarah. And remember that Darlie supporters, if you come accusing Darren, they'll attack you for that. They don't believe Darren did it. He says he doesn't remember. And if he hears her screaming and there's something going on, was he going to show up naked? I think I'd throw something on too, honestly. Just real quick. Now, if he knew that his kids were downstairs getting stabbed to death, and he paused to put his stuff on? No, he said he literally says he doesn't remember if he put them on or not. Do I need to get that? So, if he knew that his kids were getting stabbed down there profusely and then paused, that would be different. But he didn't know what was going on. All he heard was the sound of a glass breaking. He actually didn't hear 2 children screaming bloody murder because they were getting killed. He didn't hear that. Neither did Darlie, and she was only inches away from them. Neither one of them heard that. And they were attacked first. No, Sarah. He says, I don't remember if I put pants on or not. No, Sarah. Yes, they were. His pants were. Yes, they were. Darren says, the first thing I heard was this glass break. And then I came down the stairs and my wife was going, Devin. Darren always says the first thing he heard was this glass break. Then he comes downstairs and my wife's at the bottom of the steps going, Devin. That's what he says, right? Show me somewhere that I'm wrong. Put the thing in. But anyways, I'm going to try this other one. That one froze up on me. We're going to get into Dr. Alex Santos' testimony, where I was told that the word superficial was not even used. And then when I showed that the word was used, I was told that superficial meant directional. No, I can show that it doesn't mean that too. I can show you that through testimony. But this is what's being told, is that the word superficial wasn't even used. It wasn't. She said it on her TikTok. That word was not even used. Then I found the medical report where it was, and then she said, "Well, it means directional," which she could be correct, but most doctors don't mean it by directional. But I can show you in the testimony that they absolutely 100% did not mean directional, and they meant the severity of the wound, superficial, a graze, just on top of the skin, minor. Right. Well, if you set on something, it's a good question. And I'm going to go ahead and put it up here. Right? I think. She says, why would Darren still today say Darlie is innocent? There would be no need to at this point, except to save face. Because you remember, Darren came out and he said, we're going to prove her innocent. We're going to show her innocent. And to my dying day, I'm going to show her innocent until the day I die. It'd be kind of hard to go back on that now. Would you agree? That, you have a good question. I have a decent answer. That's right. That is very suspicious. That's right. I'm not going to ignore Darren's history of insurance fraud. Well, you know that Darlie knew all about that, right? So that means that Darlie would have a history of insurance fraud. The first white Jaguar that he had, they had it stolen, and he collected insurance money, and it's been proven that Darlie and Darlie Key knew about it. So that would be a history of them having insurance fraud, right? Darlie knew all about that, and they got in a fight about it. It's documented. They got in a fight about that thing. And then with Beja, when I had the housekeeper on, she said they tried to involve her in the insurance scam. That's a good way to think of it. Her death was worth more than the boys, as far as money. Okay, so let's take a look at the severity of the wounds. The method of attack was different and described by FBI profiler Alan Brantley. The method of attack was that Devin and Damon had deep penetrating wounds that almost went through and through. And what Darlie had was superficial wounds. Well, the method of attack was completely different. The method of attack in FBI profiler terms, that means that they had. Wait a minute, you're confusing me. Hold on. The method of attack is completely different. You could tell that the method of attack on Devin and Damon was much more personal than the attack that was on Darlie, who had slashes One puncture wound. The boys had bam, bam, bam. Darlie did not. I can explain how their blood ended up. Okay, you could give a theory, but I don't think you can explain it. Let's see.
Anything else? I don't know. We'll figure it out, I guess. I don't want to use it either.
Have a good day, Tracy. But Tracy, I'm done here. Same old news. That's kind of typical, isn't it? Me and you are friendly. Of course you can disagree. Now, within a few minutes of being here, and God love the truth, I just love Tracy. But she's a Darlie supporter, right? And a lot of things that they do, and you can see that I've been being respectful. I haven't been snapping. I've been giving my opinion. And it seems like when the truth hits them, I'm done here. I heard that the other day from Darlie's sister. I'm done here. They don't want to talk about it. Sorry, not sorry. And I love Tracy. She's just the sweetest thing to me. But this is typical Darlie supporter behavior. Okay, I don't want to hear it. Don't want to talk about it. Done here. But back to the testimony. Let's just take a look at that. Thank you, Sarah. Let me get this presented here. Let's look at the testimony. Let me get some full screen going on so we don't have to.
Stop. Did you know thousands of Americans are piggybacking off an IRS program to collect as much?
Okay, so in this video, I'm going to go over the testimony of Dr. Alex Santos in the Darlie Routier case, capital murder case, 1996 in Dallas, Texas. Her younger sister, Danelle, has been speaking out and speaking her truths on the case. She remained silent for a long time. At one point, we cursed each other out, and we did not get along. The family and I. Let me pause this for a second. Let me pause this for a second. On a situation where we can.
Hang on. Let me pause this for just a second. Now, Tracy, I don't know how well you guys can hear me. Okay, Tracy says, Bryan, I'm not ever going to change your mind, and you're not ever going to change mine. Well, here's the fact. I used to be a Darlie supporter, and my mind was changed because I keep an open mind. And Tracy, if you were to present me with some evidence that I couldn't dispute, then I would change my mind immediately. I did it when I was in support. If you remember, when Pamela was in my free Darlie group, I said, if someone says that Darlie is guilty one more time, you're out of here. And she did it, and I booted her. I was a very avid Darlie supporter. So that's proof that my mind can be changed. So I'm not just making up things, or I'm not standing firm on this guilt, right? Unidentified 85J, yes. Okay, stick around. Stick around. Unidentified 85J. No one has been able to unidentify that. You know, it's being told right now that there were 30 fingerprints at that crime scene that were unidentified. 30 of them, Tracy. And I know you know better than that. But let me go on with this. Now, Danelle's been on TikTok, and she's explaining the case the best she can. She's speaking up for her sister and her nephews. Under her TikTok, she's telling people that the wounds were not superficial, that she was bleeding everywhere, and that she could have died, within 1 or 2 minutes. And she said that people think the wounds were superficial, but they're not. And I commented under there, people think that the wounds are superficial because Dr. Santos said they were superficial. And under that TikTok, which I've got it saved in case, just in case some things get dirty deleted, she says he did not say it was superficial. She said he never said it was superficial. And I said, yes, he did. It's directly in his testimony, and I'll get back with you. Because I didn't have the transcripts in front of me. I was laying in my bed. But here, I went back to it because I know it's there. I just didn't know where it was at the time. I know what he said. So, Dr. Santos is on the stand. He's being spoken to by the prosecution, Toby Shook. And this is what was said. This is part of what was said. Okay, and the question comes from the prosecutor. Okay, and the little veins that are contained in the skin and fat, correct? Blah, blah, blah. But it didn't penetrate the muscle that's below the skin and fat. Correct, it did not. And in your terms, you call that a superficial wound. Is that right? Yes, sir. The medical description. That's a superficial wound. Now, Donnell said he never said that. But we can see right here that he did say that and that I was correct, according to what he's saying on the stand. They also try to say that they had to rush her into emergency surgery and she could have died. What she had was exploratory surgery. That's the same. It's right up above this. It was just exploratory surgery. It was only the small veins around the neck and the fat that was bleeding. There was a lot of blood. But she was never, she never had a significant amount of blood loss because they got there pretty quick and started taking care of her. Now, granted, let's say the paramedics couldn't get there and she was 5, 6, 7 minutes bleeding, blah, blah, blah. You know, it could have caused her to die, but she didn't even get to Baylor until 3:25. The attack happened, according to what was said, about an hour before that. So that means that she bled for an hour. She did have pressure and stuff on her wounds, but she bled for an hour and didn't die. And he also goes on to explain that the other wounds on her were also superficial. If you read the testimony of Dr. Alex Santos, you know, again, she also said that she got lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of stitches. That's the way Donnell said it. Lots and lots and lots of stitches. But most of it was sutured. And what it says right here, and you just sewed up. Did you sew Miss Routier up? Yes. We put what is called a subcuticular stitch underneath the skin. But we closed the wound up immediately. A stitch. That's a lot different than lots and lots and lots of stitches. To me, no offense. I'm not trying to be a smart ass here. I'm not trying to piss off Donnell. But these are what's said. It talks here about the laceration wound to the shoulder and another one on the right forearm. Those were not the main priority. Blah blah blah. Once we determined the neck wound was under control, we finished it. We closed that. Then we turned our attention to the 2 other wounds, washed them out, determined that there was no foreign body left in there. We determined that there was no active bleeding. Again, cleaned them out. Could you tell how deep this wound was here in the clavicle? The clavicle, is really the shoulder bone. This was a little bit lower than that. It went through the skin, into the fat, and right to the muscle and stopped there. And again, no active bleeding. So that's also considered a superficial wound. That's the answer from the doctor. That's twice he's described them as superficial wounds. And Donnell said he never said that. And Toby Shook, before, I'll tell you this, before he started to talk to Dr. Santos on the stand, he handed him the medical records and told him, you know, he could refer to these as he needs. Donnell says all this is in the medical records. But he did say that. Now, if there wasn't extenuating circumstances under Darlie, she came in there as they assumed that she was a victim. Her children were killed. That's what they assumed, because that's what they were being told. Had Darlie not been a victim of such a horrific crime, the doctor says those wounds would be those would be wounds that could be examined properly, closed in the emergency room, and sent home. Just sewed up and sent home? Correct. The reason that they kept her in the hospital. A lot of people say she was in ICU. She was in an ICU room. She was, but she was never under intensive care. They put her in the ICU room because of the situation. You know, they felt like that it was a mother that had been attacked, and her two kids are dead. So they put her in an ICU room that was empty, so she could rest. They didn't want people bothering her. Otherwise, he would have just sewed her up and sent her home. That's how it's not life-threatening. No offense to anyone. But I'm here to debate the case civilly with Danelle. I'm not going to piss her off. If these facts make her upset, there's nothing I can do about that. But I'm not going to be rude about it to her. The facts are the facts. She was laying on her back. She drew a picture of how she was laying. She wasn't laying on her left side. She was laying on her back. She drew a picture herself. But anyways, let's let's look at another one real quick. Now, one of the things that I was told, Tracy, and speaking to you real quick, I asked her, and I said, well, what do you feel about where Darren said on the Lisa show, he didn't say it, but he agreed, you know, that the force of the knife was so strong that it broke through his rib cage, went down to the carpet and into the floor below. And Darren goes, yeah, I know. And I asked her, you know, why did you say that? Why did he say that? And she goes, well, he's just repeating what Toby Shook said, right? Now, we know that the Lisa show was aired in 1998, right? And Toby made the comment that the one boy was impaled. He said he was impaled. Impaled doesn't mean a through and through. And Darren, you know, he should know that none of the boys had a through and through. And you know, like I said, she said, well, he's just repeating what Toby Shook said. But Toby Shook never said that it went through the carpet and into the floor. He said he was impaled, and he said it years later that he was impaled. So where did that come from, right? And she just, after that, she just didn't have anything for it. I also asked her, I said, okay, because we're able to speak, and we do get frustrated with each other, but we're not on a bad level at this point. I asked her, I said, why did Darlie come on to Werner Herzog's show on Death Row and tell us it was said on the stand by the doctor that the carotid artery was actually cut and that I could have bled out and died? I said, why did she say that? Because we know that artery wasn't cut. And she said, well, Darlie doesn't know medical evidence that well, and maybe she just didn't know the terminology. And I'm thinking, well, she's got 26 years in there, you know, basically about her case to study it. And some of us out here, we might know more about it than her. But so I chalked it up to, yeah, maybe she didn't know medical terminology that well, right? I said, but Danelle, she was sitting in that courtroom and she started that statement with, it was said on the stand. Yeah, stand your ground is good.
Hey, this is the last hoodie you're ever going to need to buy. Bearskin tactical hoodie. Bearskin hoodie.
I want some bearskin. And also that cage behind the behind. Okay, I was responding a bit to Danelle Stahl-Fugate, who is Darlie Routier's younger sister. She's been speaking out more on on TikTok, not YouTube, about the case, and I've been able to strike up conversations with her. We stand on different sides of it. We were on different sides of the whole thing. Of course, she feels that and believes that her sister is 100% innocent. And I go with the evidence in the case, and I feel like she's guilty and she deserved the sentence that she got. But I wanted to ask Danelle if she happens to see this TikTok. You can see me on rumble.com where I've had a conversation with her. You can also come to Facebook, Darlie Routier, A Case for Concern. We have been debating this case with Danelle. We stand firm on the conviction, and she does not. I've watched her video about this couch, and I have a couple questions. One is, Danelle, what happened to that couch after the crime? Tell us what happened to the couch. And two, the documents that are sitting there. Yes, things did get moved around. That's a fact. In order to investigate, you have to actually pick things up, move them around. Carpet was removed from the house. That lampshade that's right behind it. Where's the lock to the top of that lampshade? Where did that go? And also that cage behind behind right here. This cage right here. Can you tell us about the cat that was in that cage and how that cat was reacting when officers came in to the home? And we can speak about Domain later on. He actually bit one of the officers. And Darlie did say, well, he always acts like that when strangers are around. We can talk about the animals later. I just wanted to ask these two questions of Danelle. Again, what happened to the couch after it was released to the family? What happened to the couch? And this lampshade that's on this is a lamp. Lampshade was down. Where's the wing nut to that at? It's missing. And this cat that was in this cage. How did the cat react to people being in the home? And it was in the cage when the crime happened. How did the cat react? Knowing that I have the answers. I have nothing but respect for Danelle for speaking out for her sister. When the majority of people feel like the conviction is just. Danelle was around 13 years old when this whole thing happened. She's been raised up in this. I believe now she's a nurse. So her life is going really well. I remember seeing her when she were in interviews, younger. She grew up quite well. And I can't imagine having to have this crime be like one of the biggest parts of your life. But I'm here about misinformation. People are able to watch her and listen to what she's saying. She doesn't like it when people rebuke what she's saying. You'll get blocked if you're rude to her. Sometimes the truth seems to be rude to her. But I'm not going to be that person that gets on her bad side. I'm not going to insult her. I'm just going to stick with the case. And I really want her to, because I'll come back and answer these questions as to where that cat's behavior, where that is right there, what happened to the couch after it was returned to the family. No, I'm not going to let you get away with that, Tracy. Hang on, I'm going to stop sharing. Let me put my big mug right here. She says Davis was later reprimanded over shady shit in another county. He was not reprimanded. He was accused. And he was found to be innocent. And once he was found to be innocent, he quit. He was never reprimanded. He never received any type of disciplinary action on his prosecution at all in any case. Reprimanded would mean he got in trouble. He did not get in trouble, and you know that. I don't know the Jeff McDonald case as well as I know Darlie's case. But if I were to look at it and I felt like he was innocent or guilty. Now remember, Sarah, I started out as a very avid Darlie supporter. Explain the mulch. Greg Davis said there was no mulch under that the mulch wasn't disturbed, right? So if there's no mulch there, then it can't be disturbed. That's the only way I can explain that. That doesn't make her innocent or guilty that he said that. He also said, well, if she's innocent, that just means I'm a damn good attorney, right? You call a liar. I'm going to start making videos about you, by God. No, I won't. We're not going to get into, I'm not going to fight with anybody about this case. I'm not going to do this like I did it before. Because I'm not getting my point across. When I keep coming out and saying, oh, those supporters, they're haters, they're uneducated, they're stupid, they don't know, they don't have anything else to do with their life. They're just, and I'm not even going to talk to them. That's what's being said on the other end. You know what? I will, but I do not want to get into any type of argument with you. Okay? It's not going to happen. Let me find it. Let me get it. Where's my invite? Don't you get frustrated with me. We only have a different of opinions. Let's see what happens here. And don't you come up here and move me. No, neither. Nobody wants to see that. Darlie did that quite often. Why would she have her wedding ring off? You know, in their first statement, Sarah, written statement to the police, that they said that, you know, the boys came downstairs to sleep, you know, to watch a movie, and that Darren sat down there for a little while, and they talked about things. And they kissed, and then, no, it won't. They kissed, and he said, dream of me, and went to bed. You gonna moon me? Hi, Tracy.
Okay. Hey. Why am I echoing?
I have no idea.
Wait a minute. Let me go to YouTube and turn it down.
I might turn mine down too, just in case. Yeah, you're right, because the supporter said she always took her stuff off, and that's why it was there. So why would you have a necklace on? I think sometimes you have a necklace that you never. Some women just never take them off.
Okay, Brian, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Really.
Am
good.
I still echoing?
You weren't echoing to me on my end, so.
I'm not going to stay up here long because we've had this argument for going on 20 years now.
Well,
but you just kind of told a little story when it comes to the mulch, because Davis not only made it clear that there was mulch under that window and it was not disturbed during trial, but he also made it clear that there was mulch under that window during the show, that documentary that was done. There is no mulch under that window.
There's no mulch under that window. I agree with you.
So why is Davis still, after all these years, claiming the mulch wasn't disturbed under the window? There is no mulch under the window.
Okay, and I understand what you're saying. Why is he saying that? But if you look at it like this, does mulch being under the window prove or not prove that an intruder or Darlie did this crime?
Well, according to Davis, it does. Because the mulch should have been...
Right, I agree with you. You know, I'm agreeing with you. But does it show innocence or guilt in any way, shape, or form?
No, but neither do a lot of things in this case.
Right, so he said that, and there are, like Bill Parker. You know that investigator, Bill Parker, right?
Mm-hmm.
The one who said that he interviewed her and he didn't have a recording, and you know.
And she said, if I did it, yeah.
I don't believe that. I'm telling you, I don't believe that, and I never have. So some things, yeah.
But all these little things is what adds up to her being convicted.
Well, I don't think that the mulch being there by itself or not being there was her being convicted.
So you don't feel like during the trial when Greg Davis told the jury that had an intruder entered that window, that the mulch would have been disturbed, knowing all along that there was no mulch under that window, did
I
not
think,
did
yeah,
not
yeah.
help persuade that jury?
You know what? I would think that that was absolutely wrong for him to do, except for the fact that they had pictures, and I don't. Didn't they go to the scene? I don't think it was that case where they went to the scene, but at any rate, they had the pictures, and you could clearly see there's no mulch under there. So that should have swayed their decision another way, don't you think?
Well, I mean, Bryan, he's still saying it after all of these years.
That's his
Why?
problem. That's his problem. I don't know why he's saying it. I can't say that. I don't know. We know that there was no mulch under that window to be disturbed. We know that. But so did the jurors when they were making their decision. Don't you? I mean, you saw pictures of it, and you can clearly
Yeah,
see.
I don't know what the jury saw and what they didn't see, because jurors have come out to say they didn't see certain things.
Oh, you talking about Charles Sanford? Well, I'm referring to Barb Davis, when Barb Davis said we sent thousands of pictures back, and they looked at them. They sure did. Is exactly what she said. But they were cold. They were tired. They were in a hurry. So Barb Davis.
Let me address so done with it. No, I don't think any of that changes the blood trail, and that's the most important evidence. What blood trail are you referring to? So done with it. The one that doesn't exist outside, down the 75 yards away where the sock was dropped. That blood trail.
She's absolutely correct. There's no blood trail that goes 75 feet yards down where the sock's at. She's right.
But Bevel testified that Darlie had to be bleeding.
In fact, I would have to go back and look at his exact testimony before I comment on that.
Well, you go back and look at his testimony, because he testifies that Darlie had to be bleeding when those blood dots got on that sock.
Okay. I can't just off the. I'd have to look at that. I can't. I'm not just going to come off the head with something that I don't know exactly what he said at this point. But I'll check it.
Well, I mean, the state's whole theory is she attacked her children, and then she attacked herself, and then took the sock down the alley to plant it. And about the fibers on the knife, I believe there was one fiber that was consistent with. The screen was cut from the outside.
Or the screen in itself.
Okay. But then in Lynch's affidavit, he testified that when he got the knives, they had already been dusted.
Yep.
So is it so hard to believe that one little fiber may have got off of the brush from the windowsill onto the knife?
Except for the fact that the fiber isn't consistent with any brush. It's consistent with the screen.
No. I'm saying they dusted the windowsill and then dusted the knives.
Well, one would think, and this is just an educated answer, one would think that those tools that are used to dust off things wouldn't be loose and falling apart. You would think that, but I can't sit here and say, oh no, they use the best stuff in the world. You would think that they would be able to.
Well, Bryan, you know they didn't use the best stuff in the world. They used Albertson bags.
Well,
unsanitary.
No, what I'm talking
Albertson bags.
I'm talking about a professional fingerprint analyst. I'm not talking about the bags. And even at the time, the bags they were protocol to put things in the bags, but I would agree they shouldn't have put them on the ground. Now, if you could tell me some piece of evidence that was ruined because they did that, I would agree.
Maybe the deer hair.
Well, yeah, there's also a deer hair on that sock. But at any rate, I want the supporters to prove her innocent. I don't agree with the death penalty like I used to. But I really am rooting for them to find her, to give me something that I can't come back and say, nope. And it just hasn't happened yet. I really don't. I really feel for Danelle and her family and these people, and I'm not going to attack anymore. I just have a different opinion. And I really don't want Darlie to end up dead, whether she did it or not. I want, if they were, let's say they proved us to be wrong. And people have asked me, what would I do if they proved us to be wrong? Well, the first thing I would do is send an apology to Darlie. But then my focus would be on why did the state of Texas do this and get away with it. That would be my goal.
Well, it wouldn't be their first time.
Right. So, well, I agree with that too. Now, they've painted this picture that looks like a Mona Lisa to a lot of people. And we're not stupid people. You're not stupid. And the people that support Darlie are not stupid. But they painted a hell of a picture. Darlie, I mean, it was said just a couple days ago that these people were under a spell cast on them by Greg Davis. That he had the ability to cast a spell on these people all these years, that they were under his spell. But I was told that my retorting the case, it was ridiculous. Do you believe that Greg Davis can actually cast a spell on people?
No, I do not.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. When if you're going to stick for Darlie, if you're going to stand for her and her life, you really can't say things like that. Because there are people out here, like if you say something and it's not correct.
She was offered a deal, so done with it, and she turned it down. There's rumors of more than one deal, but I've only seen proof of the one deal.
Right. I have that letter, and I can say in retort to that I spoke to Toby Shook himself and put it in video, and I asked, was she ever offered a deal? And he said no, she wasn't. And in order for her to be offered a deal, it has to go through the prosecution's office first. That's what I can say.
Bryan, explain to me why, what's his name? Dick,
I don't know. Dick?
her attorney.
Cooper?
Not Cooper.
Mosty? Mulder?
No.
Doug Mulder. Mad Dog Mulder.
No, I think
Parks.
the other one that got mad at me for releasing that letter.
Oh, the Richard, I think it was Burr.
Yes, Dick Burr.
Yeah.
Explain to me why Dick Burr would use that verbiage. Do you think he wanted her to admit to it?
Nope.
So why would he use the verbiage that he used in that letter, saying in all of his years, he had never had a death penalty deal that he was being offered for Darlie?
Okay, let's go back to where did that letter come from? Where did it come from? Where did it come from?
Well, it's obviously from Dick Burr to Darlie.
So he wrote it to Darlie, right?
And you know the story behind it.
Well, hang on. He wrote it to Darlie. So how did we get a hold of it?
I'm not going to tell you how I got a hold of it.
Okay, I'll say it like this. I'm not saying how did you get a hold of it. But he wrote it to Darlie, and somehow that got released, right?
Yeah, because it ended up in Darlie's files, and I know who has Darlie's files.
Right. So if it went to Darlie in Darlie's cell, that means Darlie released it to someone, right?
Well, Bryan, she can't keep 27 years of shit in her cell. She's not allowed.
Have we ever seen a letter that was written to her by Darlie Key or anybody else?
Well, I'm sure Darlie Key could show one, but what would that prove?
That letter in itself doesn't prove anything.
It proves she was made an offer.
No, it proves that somebody said she was made an offer.
So you don't think that's Dick Burr's signature on there? You don't think that's his letterhead?
Oh, no, I never said Dick Burr didn't write it. But maybe there's a reason why he wrote it. It's the same thing. Like
what would be the reasoning?
so it would get out, so that we would think that she was offered a deal. He could have wrote that to her with no deal being offered at all. Yeah, it's just like Photoshop here, or changing somebody's comments here, or making sure that something gets out to the public so they see it.
Brian, I got chastised by Mr. Burr for releasing that.
Sure. I bet you did. That would be part of the. He didn't want nobody to know. He could.
Brian,
okay,
you
okay,
can't
look.
just ignore that letter totally. I don't know.
Oh
But
no.
there's so much that you do ignore, Brian.
But look, I'm not going to ignore that. I'm not going to ignore the letter. But I'm looking at the reasoning. If he could have wrote that letter, sent it to her, and said, "Let's get this out and gain some more support." We don't know if he did or not.
So you're questioning his ethics.
Yes, just like the ethics.
But
of all
when
the
anybody
police,
questions the ethics of the state of Texas, you've got something to say about it.
I'm not the state of Texas. No. Listen to me. Doctors have the ethics of the doctors, the police department, the investigators are all being reflected by Darlie supporters that they were inept, they didn't know how to handle the case. One nurse,
of course they're going to say that. So done with it. Of course they're going to say that.
You know, one nurse was described as an insane nurse just a couple days ago by someone from the Darlie camp that knows her.
Well, okay, I don't care what the Darlie camp is saying.
But
I've always kept this.
Yes.
I've never gotten personal with Darlie.
I agree.
And I've done it for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always wanted to be able to keep an open mind about it.
Right, and let's look at it. Let's look at this scenario. Let's say we used to think on here that sometimes the drama that we were seeing was scripted, right? That's when somebody got behind the scenes and said, "Hey, I'm gonna start this fight with you, and we're gonna get some views and get some." Is there it? Can you tell me that letter? There's no way that letter could be scripted.
Well, I can't say there's no way.
That's what we would think, because I know that from talking to the prosecutor,
He lied.
Well,
he lied through the entire trial. Why would he not lie to you? Why would he not lie to you? You're nobody.
Tracy, are you questioning the integrity of the prosecutor?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so we're allowed to do this, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you can't come at me with, "Are you questioning?" Because you're going to do it.
But there's no point in Dick Burr lying about that. There's every reason for the prosecution to lie, none for the defense.
To me, if he was lying, the point would be, let's get it out there and gain more support by making it look like you took a deal. We don't know that never happened, right?
She refused the deal.
Well, he's hit her lawyer, so he's on her side. Did you hear her refuse the deal?
Yes, I have. I've heard her on interviews say.
Okay, anytime that there's a deal set up, it goes through both sides, the prosecution, and the prosecutors never saw a deal being offered to her. They never agreed to a deal being offered to her, according to what Toby Shook told me. I wasn't there. But in order for it to even be offered to her, the prosecution has to agree with it, right?
Yeah, it has to come through them.
Right, so who offered her the deal?
The prosecution.
Toby Shook says he didn't.
Toby Shook is lying.
Okay.
Just like Greg Davis is lying about the mulch under the window.
Okay, that's where we're at. Then that's where we're at. Toby Shook is a successful defense attorney now.
Why did Waddell lie?
I don't see him lying. I see it differently.
So during the bond hearing, he claims the back door leading to the laundry room door leading to the garage was closed.
Okay.
Or no, it was open.
Okay.
Now, during trial, he testifies that the door was closed.
Okay.
Which gives the prosecution the chance to say, well, what a nice criminal to close the door behind him.
Absolutely.
But at bond, he said the door was open.
Yeah, different hearing. It's also really nice of him to
But your testimony doesn't change because you're in a different hearing.
It's also nice of him to, that intruder, to clean that sink up on the way out, too.
There was no proof of a cleanup.
and there was no proof whether or not that door was open or closed. But I would agree. You know, I
But
don't think,
Waddell said it.
I know that you're not a stupid person. You know that?
I know, and I know you're not stupid. But Waddell said it.
Well, send it along, and I'll address it. Send it along to me. You know my mail. I'll address it if that's the way it is, because I don't have it all in front of me.
Brian, you even admitted years ago Waddell lied.
What I said years ago is that he seemed kind of fishy to me in that one interview because he kept swallowing. Right? He kept on swallowing. I said, "Look at that." I said, "That just looks weird. It doesn't look right." But I also saw Darren doing the same thing on the last defense, swallowing like that. When you're swallowing and talking, and like Waddell just looked like a deer in the headlights, and he was swallowing a lot. But I never said I thought he was lying. I know that swallowing like that can be a sign of deception. Is what I said. That is what I said. And I don't give Waddell's testimony. Well, Waddell said this, and I don't rarely use him. Then we have one supporter to say,
but yet you say, but Darlie said this.
Yeah, because Darlie's the focus, not Waddell. But the thing of it is, we had a supporter coming on here saying that Waddell was asleep in his police cruiser when the call came in.
Well, I don't think anybody knows what Waddell was doing in his police cruiser.
Right, and that's the kind of things that when those types of things are said, I'm not saying Darlie's guilty because that supporter said that. I'm just saying that if you're going to put these things out here, there's other things to back it up. And you're free to do that as well. We're free to look and make up our own minds. Now,
but the state doesn't have to back anything up, and
Sure
people like you agree with it.
Okay, would you agree that like if in Darlie's sister's case, in Danelle's case, I feel like that she was 13 years old when that happened, and she doesn't know anything but support, and she admits that she doesn't know the case that well, and
she's learning.
Huh? Yeah, well, I'm gonna help her because she first told me that the word superficial was never used on the stand.
Brian, she did an actual demonstration with medical pictures.
Yeah, I saw that. It's nice of her. So have I. I know what those doctors meant.
But she's a nurse.
Right. She's a nurse. But when the doctor says these are superficial wounds, they're minor wounds, they're just abrasive wounds that we didn't do anything with on the stand, superficial, they're describing the majority of the wound. Now, I will give her credit. She said Santos never said it, and then I found that he did say it. And then she went back and she said it meant the direction or the position of the wound, right? That it's superficial to the trachea. It can mean that, but in the evidence, in what they were testifying to, they meant that it was minor. And
wait a minute. Did you just say it can mean that?
It can mean directional, yes.
So because it wasn't probed into deeper by Darlie's defense, that's very much what they could have meant.
Well, no, because when you look at the rest of his testimony and the testimony of Dillon that was in there, he describes superficial clearly as minor wounds. Nothing to worry about. Superficial, we didn't worry about it. He doesn't describe them as directional. So what I'm saying is, it can mean directional, but most of the time, if you look up what is a superficial wound, anywhere, it means a minor wound. Even Santos said, if it wasn't for the extenuating circumstances of her being assaulted and her children being dead, that he would have just stitched her up and sent her home. In fact, he was really worried about how she would react when he went to check up on her in ICU. He was worried about how she would react if she knew the boys were gone or not. And it was apparent that she did know. And he said that in his many years of treating, mothers that had lost children or children coming in, and they died, and the mother's there, he's never seen anyone have such a flat effect as Darlie.
Okay, so now we're going to get into her grieving process, even though she was heavily medicated at the time.
Actually, if you look at the testimony You can hear what she was
Which
given.
testimony?
Dilwan
The nurse's real true time notes or the lies they told on the stand?
she wasn't heavily sedated, and when the doctor asked
Brian,
her,
they did exploratory surgery on her.
yeah, but by the
So they
time
did it while she was wide awake?
no, by the time that she talked to the police, she wasn't heavily sedated. Is that where you're going? He said she didn't seem heavily sedated when he spoke to her.
Of course he's going to say that.
Because he didn't talk to her until after she came out of surgery and was recovered.
Of course he's going to say that.
Yeah, because
you think the cops are going to say, yeah, we went in and questioned her. She was pretty fucked up, but we still believe she's guilty.
I'm talking about the doctor, Santos. He clearly says that the effects of the sedation wore off, and that she was alert, and he didn't feel like that she was groggy from it or anything. It says that right in the doctor that gave it to her.
Well, what? Explain the nurse's notes to us.
That they said that she was whining and crying?
No, pull up the nurse's notes and then pull up their testimony and see how different they are.
Yeah, you could be whining and crying and still have a flat effect.
Really?
If they lied on the stand, why haven't they been charged with perjury?
Because nobody's pushed that issue.
Well, in 27 years, they could have. Don't you think? Somebody would listen. Somebody would listen.
No, nobody's listening, Brian.
Nobody. All right, do you remember Bill Clutter and Injustice Anywhere? You remember him?
Yes, I do.
We're going to raise the bar on Darlie. We're going to prove her innocent. And we've got David Cam right here. He's just come out of prison. We're going to show you with ISU for Darlie Routier, Indiana State University. We're going to prove her innocent. What happened to those people?
Well, I'll tell you what happened to him. David ended up marrying Clutter's woman.
Right? All the more reason to help him prove that Darlie's innocent, right?
Why would that be all the more reason?
Well, okay, if they hooked up, if somebody's sleeping with somebody else, does that have anything to do with Darlie's guilt or innocence?
No, it had to do with the fact that Clutter and David parted ways.
Okay, so if you look at the Darlie group today, ISU for Darlie Routier, you remember how strong they were, right? Those law students from Indiana that were studying the case, and boy, we're going to show her innocent. What happened to them?
I don't believe those law students ever said that.
Oh, yes, they did.
Show me that.
I can't.
You
show
know
you
my
that
email.
I can't show you that because everything it's a ghost town. But they did say ISU. The group is ISU for Darlie Routier. The group name by itself should tell you that I'm not fabricating anything. They said that their goal was to prove her innocent. They had 3,000 group members. Go look at it today. There hasn't been a comment in there since 2019. Where did they go? You know, could you say that all those group members were sleeping with somebody? Where did they go? You know, what happened?
No. I'm saying what happened between David and Clutter.
Right. So, okay, you could say that David Cam backed out of it because of that, right? But he was in there with ISU. He went and spoke.
David Cam hasn't helped anybody since his freedom.
Right. He came out, though, after his freedom, and he did speak at ISU about the Darlie Routier case. He did go there. I've got pictures of it. He spoke about his conviction. And
I know he did.
All right, so what happened at ISU? Why did they back away from proving that she was innocent?
I don't know that they backed away. Maybe they didn't have the backing.
Well, you don't hear about them no more. They had the backing at first. They had the whole college behind them. I mean, I'm just saying, why would they back away? That's all.
I don't know. Why would the Innocence Project take the case?
Because the Innocence Project of Texas never would touch it.
Who cares? She got even better. She got New York. She got the founders.
That's good. That's very good. And I hope that they prove her innocent. I really do. But the Innocence Project of Texas, you know as well as I know, that they never would take her case. Never.
No, they would not. I remember. I wrote to them.
Right. And Darlie Key used to ask us as supporters, contact them. Because she had contacted them so much that they were just about to say, look, we're not taking the case. Why would the Innocence Project of Texas, the state she lived in, turn down her case? Why would they do that?
Why are you answering a question with a question?
I'm not. I'm just saying, why would they turn down her case?
Why would the state of New York pick it up?
Because they felt like picking it up.
So they just woke up one day and said, we don't have enough to do. We'll just pick up Darlie Routier's case out of Texas.
Seems like to me, that's what they do. If they think someone is innocent, that's what they're going to do. But why is the state of Texas Innocence Project, who's totally against Texas law and how they do things, Texas law it's a shady state, I give you that. Why would her home state not want to back her? For the same reason that 76% of the WFAA Dallas watchers felt like she was guilty, and the rest felt she was innocent. That the people that where she came from feel like she's guilty.
Of course, Brian. Nobody wanted to believe there was some crazed person out there that would go into a home and brutally murder and attack a mother and her 2 children.
But the supporters believe that.
Well, yeah.
Okay. So that's a far cry from nobody wanted to believe that, because people do believe that.
No, I mean people from that community, people from that area. They didn't want to believe that.
So they'll just say she did it, so that means there's no intruder? I can't fathom that. They'll say, we don't want to believe that there's somebody out here running around, and we really
Brian,
don't
do you remember what was going on at the time that this crime happened?
Specifically? You'd have to...
Do you remember his name was Buddy?
Buddy. It's not ringing
And
a bell.
all the property he was buying up in roulette, and he happened to be the mayor?
Yeah, this I don't know about. No.
Do you think for 1 minute he was trying to profit off of roulette? Do you think for 1 minute he could have the rumor out there that there's someone out there that stabbed 2 kids to death?
No.
Who's going to want to live in that neighborhood? Who's going to want to live in that suburb?
It seems to me if they were going to make it up that Darlie did it, that they would have staged the scene a little bit better.
Okay, well, I could turn that around and say it seems to me that if Darlie did this, that she could have at least raised red flags with her staging and said something about the sock down the alley.
Absolutely. But then she'd have to explain why she was outside.
No. I saw him carrying a sock. He had something white in his hand. He went that way.
He dropped the knife. Yeah, well done, Tracy. I mean, it is controversial. I'll give you that. And what I'm not going to do during this, bringing it back up, is get frustrated or get pissed off.
I mean, Tommy Lynn Sells, we all know he was locked up somewhere else.
Right.
He was contacted and asked questions about this case.
Mm-hmm.
And he clearly said himself that he almost always took the weapon from within the home.
Right. Okay, he was contacted and he said that. But...
And he almost always left the weapon behind so he didn't get caught with it.
Absolutely. Okay, you say he said that. I don't know who contacted him. You say he said that, but I can refer...
Your good friend, what's her name? The one you get along with so well.
Melly?
No,
Hopkins?
Yes, Stephanie Hopkins contacted him.
Okay, well, I never saw that. But what I did see with Tommy Sells is where the police took him back to the scene because they wanted him to explain it. And he said he had his favorite knife. And he brings it with him. And he doesn't... And he showed himself taking the screen off. And going... He said he took the screen off. But in that interview, he said he had his favorite weapon. And you can see that.
And I can show you an interview where he said he almost always used a weapon from inside.
I'd like to see that if you could, because then I'll stop using that argument. But Tommy Lynn Sells is also an insane criminal, so we really can't take anything he says, really.
Oh, he's dead now, ain't he?
I'm not sure, but I know that he loved it when they took him out back to the scenes. They thought he was getting off on it. Yeah, but there was one where he said he always brought his favorite knife. I mean, I'm just saying. He even described it.
Well, maybe you can point me to that interview.
I will at some point. Last
All
one
right,
I want.
I'm jumping down. Carry on. You're
Hey, I
wrong.
hope.
I'm right. Have a great day.
I hope that things are going well for you. I know that you're going through some stuff, and you're in my thoughts. Right?
Yeah. All right. Take care.
I'm glad I met you through all this bullshit. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
She's like,
Wish it
yeah,
was
whatever.
different.
You just tolerate me, don't you?
All right.
God love
Bye.
you, girl. Bye. And with that, I'll pass for today. Tracy is versed in the case, and we used to go at each other so badly about it. It's really easy to get frustrated with someone else when they don't see your point, but it can be done, and it needs to be done this way. So, because if the supporters feel like the Texas duped people, then they should help us. We're under a spell. They should help us instead of hating us. If Texas painted this picture to intelligent people, we're not going to look at the evidence. I don't want her to be guilty. I don't want her to be guilty. I'm begging for you desperately to say, here you go, Brian. Joe Blow just admitted to doing this down the street, or we've got this guy's fingerprints, or we've got this confession, because that's the only thing that Texas is going to accept is actual innocence. I feel for Darlie Routier's family. Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, you're right. I really do. You can see her, and I'm going to promote her. All right? You can see her on TikTok at Fugate1982. Go over there and take a look. She's adorable, right? But you can also, if you wanted to, you can join the Facebook group Justice for Devin and Damon Routier, and you can see the retorts. You can also join my group, Darlie Routier, A Case for Concern, and look at it both ways. Now, we can clearly see that two people that are definitely on the different sides, they can talk about the case, right? It's nothing personal. So that's where I'm at, and that's where my channel is going to be at for a while. I wish Danelle and her family the very best. It's really hard for me to do this because that's her sister. And Devin and Damon loved her. It's not easy for me to do this. So I'm not going to be crappy with her. And she can present it, and then I can present it, and then people can decide. But you can't decide on just one-sided stuff. Bless her heart. She was raised in support. She was raised in Darlie's support. She was raised that way to feel like she was innocent. And that's what it is. I don't feel like she's lying. Well, it pisses her off when you say she's lying. So I say, look, you're spreading misinformation, and I show the misinformation. Yeah. Like I said, my own people on Facebook, when I started talking to Danelle, my own people kicked me out of my own group and blocked me from my own group. None of Darlie's blood was on the sock. Well, Darlie's DNA was on the inside toe of that sock, if you can explain that. Not necessarily. But Darlie's DNA was on the inside toe of that sock. There was no intruder DNA on the inside toe of that sock. They were bleeding artillery, but they were just a little bit of blood. A little bit of blood. I'm going to get off of here. It's good to have these kinds of conversations. Sarah, I respect your opinion. Becky Boo, I respect your opinion. I respect everyone's opinion in this case, and it doesn't have to be insulted, and we don't have to battle with each other personally over it. I really hope that they show us. I'm going to end the stream now. Thanks for stopping in. Everybody's welcome here. Nobody gets booted or blocked unless they're just totally out of control. You can have your own opinion on this case here. But you can't be insultive, and I'm not going to do that either. I'll extend that too. I can be sarcastic but not insultive. Have a good day, y'all. Peace and chicken grease.